Talents, skills, upgrades, slots. All of these games have special interactions with the core of a character that can be upgraded. With Wuthering Waves, this is called Forte. For most games, especially gacha games, there is a progression system where it gets harder and harder to reach the max level for an upgrade. Because it gets harder and harder, the investment for return is also pretty underwhelming, which leaves many to just leave those upgrades at a lesser level. This state is called good enough. It is far more beneficial to raise other characters to that same level than it is to max out one specific character who you may only use in one specific case. This has been the norm for ages across gacha games, but Wuthering Waves does something different. I'm Void Enigma, and I'll be explaining how Wuthering Waves handles their forte per character and why it's a great thing, as well as some flaws behind the system. Let's take Genshin Impact as an example of a talent system where you have to level up talents. This is pretty similar among other gacha games as well, but there are some key notable differences and some outliers that actually do this well, similar to how Wuthering Waves handles it. The upgrades from level 1 to 6 for Genshin Impact are significant, most of the time unlocking more than 50% of the character's power. The upgrade cost is also pretty insignificant, and you can quickly get this done. To raise that talent any higher though requires a bit more work. Each upgrade from here requires a world boss material to which you can farm once per week, and you need 1/3 of the possible drops. To max everything out, you need a total of 18 of this one specific boss drop. With perfect RNG, it will take you 6 weeks to max out a character's talents. This is the absolute quickest that you can get there. In practice, unless you've been hoarding dream solvents, this can take much longer. You see, dream solvents are a way to convert the materials that you don't want to the materials that you do want, but the drops for each of these world boss are random, and most of the time, you get 2 per run. So even if you get lucky and end up getting 3 drops this week, you still may not even get any of the drops that you actually want. As bad as this sounds, it's not that bad at the end of the day, since raising a talent to level 8 is that golden good enough level, to which characters can feel powerful enough to take on all of the endgame content. You only need 2 of the weekly boss materials to do so per skill, so this is slightly more manageable. To upgrade talents from level 8 to 10, however, are significant in cost. If you're a long-time player, then you may have millions of mora, so cost ain't nothing but a number. But there is a significant thing that may hinder you from leveling a talent from level 9 to 10, and that is a crown. A crown is essentially what you do to crown a talent, or max out a talent. In addition to this, you're going to need about a week of resin to farm all of the materials to make this happen per skill, from level 9 to 10. Most players do have a surplus of mora, but if you're starting from scratch, this is brutal. That's 700k mora to raise a talent from level 9 to 10 alone, and keep that in mind for later. And in addition, you need to get 38 purple or epic talent materials. If you opt to grind for this instead of giving up your left kidney, then this will take you roughly a week straight to get those materials. 2400 resin for the talent materials that you can only farm 3 days out the week, and 2 days for the mora, which is about 240 resin. With all of that being said, the upgrade from level 9 to 10 must be significant to warrant the high cost of limited materials, right? Well, if you thought that, then you'd be sorely mistaken. Yes, it's more damage, but you will hardly notice a damage increase per character. You spend about a week to get a very small damage increase, and there are some outliers to the rule, like characters like Rayden, Shogun, and Eula, whose damage is all centered around their burst, but leveling up these talents will not improve your damage by that much. With all the buffs that you can stack on from other characters, it's much better to just raise all of their talents to increase the buffs than just focusing in on one character, especially if you're resource starved. Overall, the damage increase is negligible compared to the high cost. You get more bang for your buck if you're maxing out other characters or just focusing on artifacts. Now, the upgrades in Wuthering Waves are significant. Firstly, remember how much it costs to raise one talent from level 9 to 10 in Genshin Impact, right? That was 700k mora if we count the discounted kidney you traded in, which equals a 240 resin, which is about 32 hours of resin. To raise a talent from 9 to 10 in Wuthering Waves is 100k. which takes 40 wave plates. 80 if you really want to be picky because you're off with about 20k. You do have 2 extra fortes to max in Wuthering waves, but even if we count leveling 3 skills from level 8 to 10, that cost is 510k credits. Hell, maxing everything will cost you a meager 850k credits for the 5 forte here at the bottom. And if you want to max the entire tree, then that's going to be about 1.5 million credits if you're raising them from 8 to 10 along with all of the nodes up top. The payoff is almost as big as how leaving a like on this video will help this channel. If you made it this far, then you must be enjoying this video, right? Go ahead and leave a like, as this helps keep the channel alive so that I can keep pumping out great content for you all. Let's take a look at Chun-Li's Flame Sacrifice. From level 6 to 10, you get an overall damage increase to the multiplier of 122%, and that's massive. The difference for her Liberation from level 6 to 10 is an increase to the multiplier of 325%. These are not upgrades that you can just ignore, and the cost is not that high and the payoff is substantial. For Genshin Impact, the increases is similar for characters whose damage is focused on one part of their kit, like Rayden, Shogun, and Eula, but for characters whose damage is more spread out across their kit, you're going to feel much less of an impact when upgrading these talents, especially when you can compare it to the cost. Raising Jian's Liberation and Forte skill by 1 was enough to actually clear out the Tower of Adversity, when my previous clear was short 20 seconds. Now, with all of this being said, there is a major issue with the Forte system in Wuthering Waves. It's halted by the weekly boss. Yes, you get much less cost for the max out each Forte, and yes, the damage increase is substantial, but the weekly boss material is very limited. Luckily, we could choose to farm the same boss each week, so when you get to Union level 60, you can get on average of 9 per week, and to fully max out a character, you need 26. Each of the top nodes cost one of these materials, which attributes to the overall cost. Luckily, it will take you 3 weeks to max this out. With that being said, however, you can only max out 1 character every 3 weeks. In Genshin Impact, under perfect circumstances, you could be maxing out multiple characters per week because you can farm each of those bosses once per week, and you don't have a limit on the amount of weekly bosses that you can get. They will have to be from different regions to actually capitalize on it, but it is still an option. The biggest difference is that there is no RNG involved, so you know you're going to get the material, which just greatly benefits everyone. Since this is a new game, you'll need to upgrade quite a few characters, and if they keep releasing characters one after another, then eventually they will either need to increase the weekly boss limit or increase the drop rate for each of these characters. In addition, if they keep releasing new bosses, they're going to have to implement a system to actually convert the old boss materials that you don't need into the new ones, because that's going to get bad really quickly. Unfortunately, the first 2 options are most likely not going to happen, but I can see the last option being something that can happen in the future. This isn't too bad though in the grand scheme of things, because limiting the progression will help the lifespan of the game, but it still feels bad. Make sure you are doing your weekly bosses, because this is the most limiting factor to unlocking your character's full strength. It is great to see that Wuthering saw the issue with not maxing out characters' level and upgrades, and sought to fix the issue by making them not only cheaper, but making those upgrades worthwhile. The biggest damage increase from Union level 60 is not the level, but actually the Forte. Leveling the weapon and character are easier, but maxing out the Forte increases your damage by a lot more. It is also great that you aren't limited with something like a crown just to max out your mains. This created a FOMO effect in Genshin, and some players wouldn't even use the crown because of how limited they felt. So you have no fear of actually using up all of your crowns or missing out on a crown in Wuthering Waves, which is a great thing. Let me know what you all think of the Forte system in Wuthering Waves. How can the weekly boss issue be fixed in your opinion? Go ahead and leave a comment down below regarding your thoughts on this issue. Leave a like as well if you found this video enjoyable, and also consider subscribing for more Wuthering Waves content. This has been Void Enigma, and until next time, Enigma out.